The Cheating Death Podcast is a comedy podcast that contains information, subject matter, language, and coarse material that may not be suitable for all listeners. Your discretion in this matter is advised. On today's episode of the Cheating Death Podcast, we have the privilege of interviewing the enigmatic, the educated, the energetic evil dose. We discuss a litany of topics going from men's mental health and society in general, all the way to how the judicial system works in some different places. We also touch on some pretty heavy societal topics, but try to lighten it up at the end with a little bit of fun talk. Professional wrestling, different insights as to different levels of fun and fury. So, by all means, grab yourself a coffee, a cappuccino, or your favorite beverage. Grab your favorite blanket, put your feet up, and let Evil Dose and the Cleric tell you how to cheat death. This is your news anchor, the Cleric of Chaos, and this is your Annihilation Announcement. As discussed through the episode you are about to listen to, dear listeners, understand that you are to be taken seriously. You are loved, you are valued, and if you are struggling during the holidays, we are going to repeat this message over and over throughout the course of the next 4 to 6 weeks, at the bare minimum, that you are indeed valued. You are lovely, you are trying your best, and you are fighting with every single fiber of your soul. Be kind, love yourself, take care of yourself, and remember, there is no shortage of suffering in the world, but you have the strength to pull through. This has been your news anchor, the Cleric of Chaos, and this is your Annihilation Announcement.
Meine Freunde, guten Morgen, guten Tag, eine gute Nacht. Ist dein Reisender, deine Ausländer, deine Cleric of Chaos, your Cleric of Arcana. And on today's program, we are grateful, honored, privileged to be in the presence of a 1,000-year-old cephalopod, an eclectic, educated, enigmatic, the one, the only, Evil Dose.
What's up, everyone? What's up, Cleric?
It's just another afternoon, evening, and or morning whenever we are listening to this fine program. It's a beautiful Thanksgiving holiday. Did you have yourself an absolutely tremendous time there, Jeff?
Sure. We had lots of food. Everything was homemade, delicious. In bed by 9:30, 10 o'clock, just as I predicted.
Well, as long as you had yourself some yummy food, got yourself some good rest, you're all prepared for the Black Friday extravaganzas, I assume? Given that you are home, I'm going to assume that that is not going to be the case for you this weekend.
No. We're not big shoppers. I ordered some Omaha, Kansas City steaks, for a few months, and we're very practical when it comes to the holidays. We'll if we need new bath towels or whatever, we'll order from a fancy company or something like that, or sheets, but we're not big on the gifts. Like I said, we're pretty practical that way. If we need something, we'll get it. Like this laptop that I'm on right now, it really should be replaced, but it's not going to be just yet. So I'm pretty conscientious of wearing the socks until there's holes in the socks. Let's put it that way. I know that that things can always go worse, and I try to keep that debt to income ratio in check. So in the case of an emergency, if I really needed to, I could pay off my debt within 60 days, and then sort of proceed worry free, on that front if something calamitous happened. But all you asked me about was I plan to do a lot of shopping. The answer is no, I'm not planning to do a lot of shopping.
Excellent. Well, I mean, given the nature of the holiday season, a lot of delicious food has been consumed. There have been the beginning of the holiday season, and a great time is to be had by all over the course of the next 4 to 6 weeks. Hanukkah, of course, begins on the 14th of December. Christmas Day, of course, lands on the 25th of every single year. But what we are looking forward to a little bit more in this particular program, ladies and gentlemen, is the discussion and the identification of the self. Yes, why are we going to discuss the self? Well, it's simple. The holidays are a rough time for a lot of people. This episode is going to be released at the end of November and still the tail end of Men's Mental Health Month. Be aware, men out there, that you are heard. You may struggle alone, you may feel unheard, you may feel unwanted, or you may feel as if no one else in the world understands you. But with the holiday season upon us, it is imperative that you look your beautiful self in the mirror. You smile, you grab yourself a coffee, and you jaunt to the store like you have no tomorrow. Dearest Jeff, do you have any advice for the men out there who may be struggling with their mental health or with their situations?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is if you always feel like you're feeling sad or tired or despondent, and you look around and there's really no reason for it, that probably is a mental health issue, and don't run away from it, and don't try to think that you can fix it yourself. And go get some help. I mean, everyone's like, go talk to somebody, but they generally mean their friends or whatever, which I think is fine. But I say no. I say go to your doctor. I mean, so many, many years ago, I barely slept for 10 years. Like my mind was just racing. And so for 3 years in a row, they gave me these tests, oral tests. And then I flunked them by passing them. And so the third year in a row, I just answered the opposite. And then they're like, oh, well, you have depression and anxiety. I'm like, aha, yes, I know. And so they prescribed me a pill for the morning and a pill for the night. They said, don't take them together or you might die. And the prescription on both was pretty low milligrams. And they said, you can take 1 to 3 a day. And I've pretty much always taken 1 a day. And then a few weeks ago, I was just like despondent. And I don't have much to really be despondent about. I don't have anything to be despondent about. I mean, I can be irritated, I can be sad, I can be disappointed, but despondent, no. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe after 15 or 20 years, maybe I should up one of the pills to 2 a day instead, because and I'm still only 2/3 to my allotted dosage back from when I'm like 35 or whatever, and that's helped a lot. And I haven't gone to two a day for the one at night. I stick to the one. But the point is, don't be afraid. I mean, I'm not sure that's great advice to self-medicate, but I'm still within my dosage, so well within. So I don't actually believe I'm self-medicating. In that, I'm not sure if that's a technicality or if I'm correct. But anyway, the point is, don't be ashamed. There's plenty of high-functioning people who are dealing with the same thing you are, and if you can find someone who's normal, that's going to be the struggle in your life, because it's so hard to identify someone that's normal, and that it's abnormal to find someone that's normal. And I bet if you got to know them better, ask them, they'd probably tell you that they're not exactly normal either. So that's it. That's my little poem.
Well, I mean, you put it on the head exactly when you referred to it of, don't be afraid to get help. There are a lot of situations in our lifetimes where the media, whether it be the regular mainstream medias, your NBCs, your ABCs, your CBSs, your C-SPANs, your, I guess if you're over in the good old UK, your ITVs or your BBCs, do not be afraid to medicate. Do not be afraid to acquire medicine that is going to balance out your brain. Transparency is vital, especially when it comes to one's mental health. And when one looks themselves in the mirror and they see not one, not two, not three, not four, but a seemingly insurmountable amount of cracks in the skin on a psychological level to where they can feel like weakened armor within their brain and they can just feel themselves breaking down. It is 100% acceptable, 100% okay, especially in the Western Hemisphere, to open up, be transparent. Do not trauma dump on your friends. I mean, if they ask what's going on, try to provide bullet points or be as succinct as possible. And as someone who has struggled with stating very transparently and trying not to be too overt about various things, especially when talking to family about some elements, it can be difficult. It can be tricky. When we all go through our own psychiatric and our own psychological situations or our own life situations to where we may not necessarily have the capacity at the time to seize the moment and to be able to think, pause, and respond, there will be a litany of unfinished emotion in the brain that only comes out between the hours of 12:30 a.m. and 4:17 a.m. And it is in those times that we think to ourselves, hey, what more can we do? What more can we say to ourselves to alleviate this feeling? Or what action do we have to take? It can all be so overwhelming. So what one can do is start step by step. Grab a little notebook if you have one, a piece of paper, a pen. I mean, I'm talking like it's 1995 here. Just pull out your phone and pull out the Notes app. Write yourself a bullet list. Start small. See exactly what you need to do. If you realize, oh my goodness, it's been 3 weeks since I've showered. What have I done? Start by taking a shower. If you realize it's been 6 weeks since you've done laundry, try to just do a little bit of it. If you realize it's been a week since your last full meal and it's not due to a financial issue, try your very, very best to have a 100-gram yogurt in the morning, and in the afternoon, have yourself a very small helping of either brown rice and lean chicken or ground beef. Cost effective, will assist you with your gut health and all other elements of being able to keep yourself very, very grounded in that sense. And those are only a couple of very small examples, but when we take men's mental health into consideration, there are a lot of other elements that we don't see. So when we decide to get help, it may be one of the biggest days of your life. So, dear listener, if you have any further questions as it pertains to any of our discussion on this topic of men's mental health, you are more than welcome to reach out to us directly at thecheatingdeathpodcast@gmail.com. We'll more than happily provide you with any information that you are seeking within the realm of our experience. And if we do not have said information, we will guide you in the right direction. Now, as moving on to the next item of discussion there, dear Evil Dose, the afterlife. Stories. Tales from years past, decades, centuries, millennia. You are a 1,000-year-old cephalopod. So what I want to know from you is, what is your favorite overall afterlife tale or religious tone or take on it?
I mean, probably the one that I like the most is the Norse Germanic, sort of Ragnarok cycle. I don't know how many people know that, first of all, like, they know it's going to happen. They know what they can do to avoid it, but they know they can't avoid it, so they don't even try. It's like the opposite of the show Dark. They're not trying to find a way to avoid it because it's inexorable. But in the end, not everyone dies. Most everyone dies, but 4 gods live and 2 resurrect, or come back from the underworld, which is not exactly the same thing, but close. So it's actually a story of brutal hope. But to me, that rings the most true. I mean, not in terms of, serpents that can encircle the entire earth and things of that nature, but But I think that's sort of the cycle of life. It can be brutal and beautiful in its brutality, but it does continue, and maybe next time it continues better, which is, by the way, also my convenient interpretation of the end of the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. So I think that each time Roland gets a little bit closer to the solution.
There's always a Stephen King element in almost every little bit of media that you see coming out in the past 15 years or so. A lot of his work is creeping on into everything. And besides that, shameless plug to It, Welcome to Derry. Not a bad show so far. Kind of lagging a little bit. But what you just stated, specifically about the construct of whether or not it's a tome or whether or not the afterlife in itself is like a concept, we all tell ourselves stories. The Ragnarok story is so beautiful, and it is so filled with honor and prestige, and like, hell yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's the meme, guys will see this and say, hell yeah, sort of deal. It's like, if there were any afterlife for, like, the strongman competition dudes, the guys who, like, put the boulders on their shoulders and, like, carry them around and everything, that would be the perfect place for them. Valhalla would be an exceptional place, but if there are a million stories, which there are definitely more, and we take into account everyone's universal perspective, everyone's own particular experience here on Earth, how we did not consciously agree to be here, but subconsciously we signed a fucking contract, a cache of records, blah, 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 blah. It is unique and beautiful to know that every single person has their own idea in some way, shape, or form as to how the afterlife is going to go. I do find that the downer of some people, even though Rule 34 states that if you could think about it, it exists, that there are some people out there who think that when you die, it's nothing but a void. It's nothing but just blip. It's like, okay, that sounds great and all, but don't you at least want to thrill yourself a little bit? It's almost like saying, hey man, this Reese's peanut butter cup, oh boy, I really like it, but I will not eat it if it comes in a package that's specifically shaped like a triangle. It almost feels like that. So when you take into consideration your view of Ragnarok, as well as, let's just say, comparing it to the modern day, let's just say, meet Jesus at the pearly gates religion, do you think that there would be a more fun opportunity for people in that line to, shall I say, fulfill exactly what they thought it would be, or do you think it would be more of an unexpected requirement?
Wow. I really don't know, because the modern religions first. Yeah, I don't know enough about the Dharmic religions, Buddhism and Hinduism. As far as afterlife, my understanding is it's more about a reincarnation, and you're not necessarily even aware of it. So that's, if you're not aware of it, I mean, I guess that's sort of a void. By the way, having been someone who's had one of those, I'm not exactly sure what they were. They said it was a grand mal or whatever the opposite of a grand mal seizure was, or whatever. But basically, like the Tony Soprano lose consciousness, do a face plant into the ground once. Honestly, the lights just turning off. That doesn't seem like such a bad way to go to me. I mean, the worst part was waking up and realize I banged my finger, on some furniture, and I'm like, ow. But aside from that, just the lights just went out. That not so bad. But
the quantum dream sequence idea is also a pretty funny one too. Like, the whole idea is that existence just keeps going, and that every time you die, this was most beautifully and adorably explained by the YouTube channel Film Cow back in 2008 when they released Marshmallow People, which was literally just one of the absolute most absurdly grotesque, bizarre, crazy, insane, like 8 minutes, 3 sketches of just pure, unadulterated, what the hell is this? There was this disembodied voice that whispered to one of the characters, every time you die, you wake up not knowing that you died. And then the marshmallow was like, okay. So, like, the very notion that quantum immortality on that level could potentially exist, how studies have been done to where doctors have and I'm going to say this very, very delicately, where doctors have allegedly measured the weight of a soul or a energy or a consciousness leaving the body of multiple people directly after death.
Yeah.
These are very, very tricky sort of situations, and realistically speaking, there is no way that one can verify that. So when we take that into account, and when we take into account religions, politics even to some degree, because, America, in God we trust, in some countries it's basically all about their religion, all about their afterlife, and this and that, and this and that. We look at civilization and society and religion, and to where we are right now, to where people are asking themselves, hey, is this going to be what I believe for the rest of my life? To segue and to move on to the next topic in a pseudo-strategic way, when we consider civilization in 2025 and how it deals with religion, there is a left, there is a right, there is a center, but there are also extremes to those lefts and rights. When you have been through the bar exam, when you went through law school, I would be hard pressed to compare this time to then. How do you feel about our current way of dealing with things when it comes to reactions in society, Jeff?
Well, I mean, there's no relationship to, the taking of the bar exam. There is some relationship to the time, because it was, sort of all of what we have today started about a decade before that with the Robert Bork hearings. Then they were sort of energized with the rise of Rush Limbaugh and the first Teflon man and Bill Clinton, who was like by all accounts or by most accounts a really good president, but also a really he knew his shit didn't stink. So he's doing all sorts of other really unseemly things, including with like a 21-year-old intern, and who and somehow the world blamed her, which is really remarkable. It's the second most remarkable thing to Dick Cheney getting the guy a shot in the face to apologize to him for being positioned wrongly in duck hunting. Which, listen, I don't know anything about duck hunting. Maybe that person really was. Maybe it's like wrestling. Maybe the person who gets injured is the one that's at fault. I don't know. I don't know anything about anything hunting, to be frank. But that was sort of around when that happened. Whitewater and Webster Hubble and the Clintons killed this one and the Clintons killed that one, and Rush Limbaugh, the excellence in broadcasting, and then it sort of things settled down a little bit, and then came 9/11, and then came the truthers and Alex Jones and whatever. Everything's just gotten louder, and so I think with social media, it's impossible to escape it. It's impossible to avoid it. There's so many different voices out there. There's, people say the media. I don't even know what the media means any longer. It's funny you said CBS, NBC, and ABC. I don't know a soul that watches the nightly news on one of the three broadcast networks any longer. I'm sure there are, but I don't know anyone. That doesn't mean that there aren't. Or there aren't people that I know that do it that just don't mention it. But you can listen to you can curate your own timeline by just choosing the podcast you listen to. And of course, if you listen to the same kind of thing, you're going to hear an echo chamber or slightly different variations of your truth. So, you can actively brainwash yourself, but people think we're being brainwashed by some cabal or whatever. I think we're doing it to ourselves, and I don't know if there's any cabal involved. But if there is, they're really, 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 really disciplined and abandon all hope and just join the cabal, because you can't fight that. But there isn't, and because the people who would have been in the cabal in the 1990s are not the same powerful people now, or at least most of them aren't anyway. I mean, there was no, Steve Jobs was a thing, but not the thing. Bill Gates was becoming a thing. There was no Mark Zuckerberg. There was no Sam Altman. There was no Elon Musk. There was no Peter Thiel. The Ellisons weren't big deals. I mean, I guess Rupert Murdoch was a big deal, but not this big a deal. So, I know people think there's power behind the power, but, I don't know. It's, the richest people in the world are mostly completely, different, entirely industries and things that folks never even imagined, 40 years ago. Or if they did, they were sci-fi writers, who many of which were and continue to be very prophetic.
And taking into consideration what you said, the echo chamber, let's identify that a little bit. For those who prefer not to delve into politics or things all too much, specific right versus left, center, this and that, an echo chamber is essentially, for lack of a better term, a situation where an individual engages in selective retention, confirmation bias, and refuses to adhere, acknowledge, or basically value anything that does not align perfectly with their moral value sort of system. When we take into account an echo chamber, it means people who only listen to their own ideas of what they believe, their own happiness, their own positivity, and they will shun and or spurn everything else that goes against that grain. You want to show somebody some evidence? No, who cares about your evidence? How I feel supersedes that. Newt Gingrich has a tendency to be one of the leaders in that particular area of diplomacy, we'll call it. But when we take into account, as you mentioned, echo chambers and social media and what even is the media, there is no the media. The media is just something that has been put into our lexicon in the American English language, like, oh my God, like Jesus Christ, like holy fuck, like holy shit, like the expletives, right? The standard things that almost everybody universally knows. An echo chamber is not something that we want to put ourselves in if we are looking to branch out, if we are looking to understand other people, if we are looking to have discussions rather than shout down people. And that's one of the most problematic sort of elements that currently is facing a lot of people in society as it pertains to their own political views or their religious views. Everyone is just so caught up and so busy that it seems like no one has the ability to take 10 seconds to think, analyze, and respond versus reacting in an overtly negative way, or when you see things that align to your perspective so frequently that you refuse to acknowledge anything outside of that. Like, the primary example that one can think is that when one is referring to the success or to the demise of a country or its infrastructure or how things are going socially or politically, notice that people who will say that there is nothing wrong with XYZ country I live in, there is nothing wrong with the medical system XYZ of country, state, province, whatever I live in, are people who have, one, never had to deal with those situations, two, will never have to deal with those situations, three, don't know very many people in whom have actually lived life in some way, shape, or form, or four, they have no idea that these are anything more than things that they learned about in textbooks when they were in school. You are, I'm not going to use the term, older than me, but you are wiser than me. You are more experienced in life than I am.
I'm older than you. You can say it. It's fine.
No, you and I have a lot of similar opinions, similar views on life, but we also have our differing opinions. How you and I deal with that is we discuss, and if we disagree, we disagree. It is what it is. We're still friends. We're still close. And one of the things that I find, going back to your statement about echo chambers, is that especially now, people losing friends over their political opinions or their religious affiliations. Now look, I totally get it if you're somebody that is an extremist. Like, for example, Elliot Rodger. I get why that guy had no friends. That guy sucked. He killed a bunch of people because he couldn't get laid. He sucks. Incels. They suck. Grow up. Be a man. Figure life out. It's not the worst thing to not get laid. Take a shower, grab yourself a new fucking shirt, and you'll be fine. But when we take into account how we focus and how we react instead of responding, what do you think our future looks like if this is what it looks like now?
It's tough. I mean, just from my own experience, you have to force yourself to listen to different viewpoints. And I mean, as I was just deriding the new media is the easiest way to do it. And my own experience also tells me there's not a market for those balanced shows, because there have been 2 in a row, and both put out by the New York Times. So it's not like it wasn't backed by a big, organization that could afford to have kept it on the air forever. But 2 shows in a row, podcasts with basically people from their editorial page or their journalist page or their columnist page who were speaking to people of other political persuasions. There might be 2 or 4 people there, representing different viewpoints and discussing and debating civilly. And 2 shows in a row like that failed. I mean, and they pulled them. The one lasted less than a year. The other one, I think, lasted about a year, and they replaced it with one of the guys on it. His name is like Ross Dowden or Downett, whatever. And he's the conservative columnist, and he's reasonable. His interviews are okay, but that's not the dynamic I was interested in. So I tried the Ezra Klein show. Didn't like it. He doesn't do anything for me. Now I've decided, well, I like Jon Stewart, and I think he's probably a radical centrist, but probably progressive in some areas. But, we know he fought for and still does for the first responders after 9/11. So, and it wasn't just show. He's still with them. So we'll see if that adds something. But I will always listen every week to, like a New York Times or NPR show or End, as well as National Reviews, the editors, as well as the Dispatch, which is sort of like a anti-Trump conservative outlet. I listen to the Bulwark almost every day, which was a never Trump conservative outlet, which has become sort of radically centrist and sort of almost aligned with the Democratic Party just because they're so anti-Trump, which, isn't exactly. And then I listen to Commentary Magazine, which is sort of like Jewish conservative, but I'm not so sure they're always conservative, and they definitely bend a lot of things because they're Jewish, and sometimes I pull my hair out what's left listening to them. But that's sort of the point, is to listen to people that you don't always agree with, sometimes do, and you don't even really like them, just to hear it. But that's not it. I mean, I consume a lot of other podcasts too, in a lot of different areas as well, and things spill over. I listen to the Eastern Border, which is a guy from Latvia, talking mostly about Ukraine these days for the last 3 years for obvious reasons. And others like I like to hear geopolitical shows from sources around the world, so it's not always an American perspective, and that's good. Unfortunately, a lot of those shows go away too, which is sad. There was a show called Asia Matters, and it was just a weekly show for like 30 or 40 minutes where they tell you news from around Asia, and it's gone. It's poof. It's sad. The things that should still be around. Then others, they get pretentious and like, we're a Spotify exclusive. Well, fuck you very much. I'm not doing that. So I have my own little quirks too, that I'm not going to follow a show to a particular platform, or whatever. So, but anyway,
like as time goes on and as we see for ourselves exactly how the news is handled, both from the right-wing perspective and from the left-wing perspective. Back in the days of Walter Cronkite, back in the days of the actors Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon, it was a little bit more like, friendly, like, put them up, you're a Republican, put them up, you're a Democrat, put them up. Now it's like literally people are just going for the fucking jugular. This Marjorie Taylor Greene, whom was in Congress for a few years, seems to think that everyone forgets how obsessed she was with Trump, how she looked at everyone else who was opposed to anything that he was doing or his administration was doing, and now she's coming out and saying, oh, actually, I oppose this, I oppose that. Well, it's like, dude, like you said, The Daily Show covered you multiple times, showed you multiple times saying these particular things, actually making you in some way, shape, or form, be held accountable for what you said. But as you said, with Jon Stewart, and gonna totally shout him out here, Jon Stewart, probably one of the most legendary journalists, media personalities to ever exist. One of my personal and professional favorites. Someone who, even as we do this interview right now, I am drawing from both Jon Stewart and Christiane Amanpour, one of the absolute greatest journalists of all time. But how he presents information on The Daily Show, and when he came back to The Daily Show, how he conveys information and conveys the content and the script and everything else now versus how he did in the early 2000s and then subsequently after Stephen Colbert and the Colbert Report and all that. There is definitely a side of Jon Stewart that we're seeing right now that you can see in his face every episode that he's no longer able to hide. He is almost, unless he has all of us completely gaslit, he is shocked, constantly surprised, constantly just blown away at how not only the political circus is being handled, but the fact that the East Wing of the fucking White House was torn down for a ballroom, and the only other time that the White House had been modified in any heavy way, shape, or form to that degree was when the British burned it down in 1812. So when we take into consideration...
Well, they built nuclear shelters as well.
Oh boy.
They did do that in the 50s. There were reactions to the atomic bomb and stuff like that. But that's a national security thing, not a. I mean, and someone pointed out, I don't remember but the federal government does own a ballroom facility that's a few blocks away from the White House. So it's not like they couldn't have big parties in a federal government facility that, obviously the president can get whatever. But I feel the same way as Jon Stewart. And also something you alluded to earlier, it's like you don't want to lose friends and fight with family over politics. But then I remember, there's, every person in history has their own never again. And I know a lot of people who feel like we're in a never again part of history right now, that history will look back on you and say, you picked a side and your silence was picking a side. And I kind of think they're right. I hope they're not, but hope is a beautiful thing. But it's the last thing that Pandora heard. But I'm not Pandora, so and I'm not a parable. So I sort of have to sometimes. Now, obviously, I'm doing it with marginal people in my world or marginal sites on my world that that they don't need to be on my Facebook friend list. I have access to them through other means, and they have access to me through other means if they wanted them. And it's probably impulse friends requests sent by them or me. And then I have others that I don't understand why they're still friends with me, but I figure that has to count for something. But I just truly don't understand some people's views on some things. I think that they're actually living in like an upside down view of certain things. I don't want to get into it because I don't want to alienate half your audience who might be in that upside down and think I'm in the upside down, because I'm very cognizant that those people think that I'm the madman. So
my audience is an audience that should be open to any and all possibilities. We are the Cheating Death podcast. We teach you how to cheat death, and what you are teaching us right now is indeed a way that you can cheat death.
Indeed, I suppose. Yeah, well, I'm trying to avoid it for like masses of people, and there are people who make it difficult to do that because the world is sort of suckage. And so I don't know when you're going to, you said you're probably going to drop it today or tomorrow. 2 guardsmen in DC were targeted. I don't know if it was them personally or just because they were the closest guardsmen or what, by an Afghan who served with the U.S. military in apparently a CIA-related squad called Zero Squad. So there was vetting there. The way that the Biden administration left Afghanistan was horrendous. I'm sure there was no good way, but they chose the absolute worst. They just said, we're going to pull the Band-Aid and just not worry about it, which is like, maybe that's a good way to break up a relationship, but it isn't a good way to extricate yourself from a country. And I was very critical of it at the time.
People die falling off of planes.
Yeah, I'll give them the slightest outs that 3 presidents ran on getting out of Afghanistan. They at least did it, but again, in the worst possible. Well, I'm sure you could always be worse, but in one of the worst ways that I could imagine. Then they applied for asylum. And listen, I have had many former members of the military, members of special forces, special members of military contractors, yes, private military contractors as well, people involved in politics and government, and I've known some others in my regular life, whatnot, or heard them on, people on more important shows. And 2 of our great shames in America is how we left both the Iraqis who sided with us and the Afghans how we sided with us, basically without any protection, and basically said F off. So there was a lot of momentum behind getting those people, making it easier for them to get to America. So the person took advantage of that under a Biden era policy that I don't think anyone would have disagreed with at the time. I'm not really sure that many people really disagree with it now. Well, they probably do now. And then they were granted asylum under the Trump administration. So everybody's trying to score points with whose fault it is. And it's like, stop. Everybody was involved. We don't even know why this guy did what he did. For all we know, he saw pictures of the guard's woman who's 20 years old, fell in love with her, and sent her messages, and then she didn't respond, and he pulled a Hinckley for Jodie Foster kind of thing. Now, it could be exactly what we think it is. It could be that he got out of the metro station and just said, I'm going to shoot the first guards people that I can say. I don't know. By the time this airs, maybe we'll have more information. But it's like everyone's trying to rush to blame it and score political points. Usually the reason that somebody does something is, you have your political obvious hits on both sides, but even those people tend to have confusing manifestos. And sometimes they have their own politics, all of their own. This is the acts of a mad person. So even if they want to get back at, maybe they just found out that their family in Afghanistan got killed, and so now they want to take it out. They traveled from Washington State to Washington, D.C. They drove. There were guards people in Portland, which was a lot closer for them. There were guards people in Los Angeles, which is a lot closer for them. So I just think that the rush to judgment to score political points as opposed to trying to understand it or to find out that it's non-understandable. But sometimes shit just happens, and sometimes shit is terrible. Maybe it's somebody's fault. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a lot of people's fault. So I don't know. It's just, I feel like everything that there's a lot of shit like that out there, it makes it very difficult. So of course now, Trump administration said, well, we're going to permanently pause. So I don't know what permanently pause means. Immigration from certain countries. And he named 19 countries. Like, if he said we're going to focus on Afghan people who applied under this Afghan asylum thing, I think it was unfair, but at least I get it. Or if you said, from recent conflicts where people came in under similar programs, whether it was Syria, Iraq, or, what have you. I guess that's, could sort of, but he's naming countries in Africa and we're in the ultimate tail wagging the dog going into Venezuela over if we're going to wage war over drugs, we're actually going to do it. You may as well go for the countries that supply us with the drugs, which would be Mexico and Colombia, not Venezuela. So, it's like, but people don't want to hear different. They don't want to hear nuance. They don't want to hear that not everything is neat. They're still convinced that Charlie Kirk was assassinated by the Mossad or something. Which is weird because, of all the things that I learned about Charlie Kirk, most of which was after he was assassinated, was that he became a Christian Zionist and outspokenly so for like the last couple of years of his life, whereas a few years earlier he was, sort of flirting with anti-Semitism. But again, the guy died at 31. So the fact that he thought something at 24 and aged out of it, that's entirely reasonable. I mean, that's what's supposed to happen. And I don't pretend to know much about Charlie Kirk. I don't. So I didn't talk a lot about it. Not because I didn't care. It's just I didn't have anything intelligent to offer.
It's not even a question of intelligence or not having anything to offer. It's also just not wanting to further stir the pot. There is already so many ingredients in the stew that adding anything more will just make it so that none of the ingredients have any flavor whatsoever. When we look,
I've already heard these terrible rumors going around that Usha Vance is filing for divorce and Erica Kirk is 11 weeks pregnant, but Charlie died 13 weeks ago, whatever the math is like saying that she got pregnant after he died. I mean, listen, if she's pregnant, it's going to show pretty soon. And, I don't know. This history is full of madmen who do madman things.
Funeral, though, Jeff, the Goldberg entrance will not be it will never be matched. That whole presentation, the pomp and circumstance. Like, I'm sorry, man. I just might have a different completely viewpoint on this. I don't know what the hell it is, but my only goal in life is to help as many people as possible reach their dreams and to have long-term financial security to where I can look towards my future, maybe have $1 million or $2 million in the bank invested properly so that I don't have to do anything in order to, exhaust myself any more than I'm already.
The Goldberg entrance just once.
What's that?
And get the Goldberg entrance just once.
Just once.
Just once.
But it has to be in the appropriate setting. Given the nature and the dynamics of everything that we are discussing as it pertains to this unique situation, there are so many elements that people are just throwing at each other left and right. There are people reacting emotionally, not only to the Charlie Kirk assassination, not only to the Trump shooting last year, and yes, I do use heavy air quotes, not only when it comes down to the beginning / development / ongoing relationship between the judicial system of the United States of America and the District of Columbia, or not the District of Columbia, sorry, the country of Colombia. I believe, or is it Colombia or is it El Salvador where CCOT is?
It's El Salvador.
Thank you. Okay, so El Salvador. I apologize, Colombia. The United States and El Salvadorian government have been in talks to essentially share and exchange ideas because CCOT is one of the most insane prisons that exists on the planet. Yet, these two countries are coming together to say, hey, we need to punish more people. How can we do it more efficiently? And while I don't agree with the implication of that, I don't agree with the reaction or of the identification how people will throw fireballs at each other without realizing the damage that it does. We see it on social media every day. Reaction. Oh, you're stupid. You're an idiot. You don't know this. You don't know that. This is why I'm better than you. Blah, 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 blah. Would you not agree that people don't necessarily want to be heard? They just want to be right?
Yeah, I mean, at the end, I mean, I think they want to be heard to be right, and they want to hear that they're right. I mean, I think the same thing goes back to our first topic, which was trauma. I mean, I think that there shouldn't be a stigma around mental illness, but it shouldn't be a badge of pride either. I think a lot of people seek attention through, saying how in trouble they are, and I hate those chain emails or posts that are like, I know that my 2 or 3 friends who will do this post and copy and say, there's always so, shut up, just stop it. No one's doing that. That's not helping the soul. Just stop. Or maybe I'm the jackass. But anyway, I mean, the whole thing with the Venezuelan boat thing is people say it's a war. Well, if it's a war, what's the difference between shooting Venezuelan motorboats, which, by the way, would have to refuel 20 times before making it to the U.S. coast, which is not usually what you do with a motorboat, and just telling the cops it's okay to start shooting corner boys. I mean, because there's no question what they've got. I mean, and And there's probably some people who hear and go, hell yeah. No, this is a slippery slope, and that's why I like to be a student of history and political history. Listen, granted, I'm a weirdo. When I was 9 years old, I'd watch a few cartoons and whatever, but once a week I watched the McLaughlin Group, and I love the McLaughlin Group, and I watch Crossfire, and I'd rather watch that than the Andy Griffith Show or Gilligan's Island or whatever. So yeah, weirdo. Got it. I understand that most kids would rather have been watching the Yankees game, and I'd rather be watching Pat Buchanan debate whoever he was debating at that particular time. And the fact that the kids listening to Pat Buchanan is scary enough as it is, let alone an adult listening to Pat Buchanan. But this is what slippery slopes are. And there's a reason it's a cliche. There are slippery slopes, and there's a reason why it was against troops in Portland. And by the time the courts say you can't have the troops in Portland, they're already gone and left. And by the time the judge says you can't have the troops in D.C., but I'll give the government time to appeal it. Meanwhile, if the judge just said get out, there wouldn't have been troops in D.C. to have gotten shot. I mean, which is ironic because they're there to stop crime, and they were the victim of crime. And of course, they're not really stopping crime. I mean, even if they are putting a damper on crime, the second they leave, when there's 2,000 less armed people walking around in D.C., the crime's going to come back. And most of the crime in D.C. is in downtown anyway. Most of the crime in D.C. is in Northeast D.C. and Southeast D.C. They're not there. And it's not like the Metropolitan Police is redeploying either to do that. I mean, it'd be one thing if they were doing like drug sweeps and going to crack houses and ports of entry and like doing something. I mean, I'd still be scared, but at least it's targeted. Or if they were actually going through the warrant databases of all the court system and cross-referencing them with immigration records and actually targeting the criminals or the felonies like this, instead of stopping one of the actresses from Northern Exposure who has her confederate of, I can't remember what tribe, but from Oregon, and the ICE people go, this looks fake. Well, I mean, and I've heard that, she's the only celebrity, but I've heard that from a bunch of different Native American folks that their IDs have been rejected. And it's just a matter of time before an actual now celebrity, not someone who was a celebrity 30 years ago, but now celebrities or professional athlete gets caught up in, and then public opinion is going to turn all the way. And that's what I call Borodino. And Borodino is to reference the Napoleonic Wars, where the Russians just retreated, and waited for the winter to do its part and let the damage occur, afterwards. And once the German supply lines were cut off and they were getting sick and dying and tired, and as they were making their retreat, they just followed them back and started shooting them from the rear, and started doing pencil. And I am sorry, but parents who were anti-vaxxers, the measles outbreaks all over the world, some of those kids are going to die. And I'm sorry, Borodino. Some of those kids are going to die from mumps. Borodino, I'm sorry. Some of you are going to get some variation of COVID or bird flu and going to die, and you didn't need to die. Borodino, because they're going to point to the 6 people who had heart attacks directly from the vaccine, as opposed to the 5 billion people who didn't get sick or didn't get that sick from it, and like pretending the mRNA vaccines are something new. No, it's like 60-year-old technology, and we all have mRNA in us. So it's like a building block of life. That's like you can find it in meteorites. I mean, I don't know. It's very frustrating when I see intelligent people spout things that are dumb, but I don't want to call them dumb. I don't want to call the people dumb. I want to call the ideas dumb, but you can't. So you just don't say anything at all. But there's certain, like, I don't care about enough about someone spouting off about chemtrails or Atlantis or things like that to start fights about that. But I do care about a government losing separation of powers and sliding into authoritarianism, especially with the kleptocracy that we have now. I mean, our economy is basically becoming, if it's not Russian, it's at least Argentinian. And that saying in economics, there's three economies in the world: the U.S., which is vibrant and always adapting; Japan's, which stayed exactly the same for 3 decades; and Argentina, which has all the wealth centered in 5% of people. 95% of people are basically suffering, and maybe have been suffering so long they don't even realize they're suffering any longer. We're becoming Argentina. We're becoming our Argentina and the king and his court are enriching themselves to an extent that, if Hunter Biden, if you put Hunter Biden's name on any of the one things that are happening, the world would be in an uproar. But it's that was chump change. Hunter Biden was like the Artful Dodger compared to these folks being like the Five Families. It's the scope and the breadth of it is so much different, and the tarnish and who they're doing business with, and the selling out, including national security, F-35 technology that with China having access to it. It's just like things that TV characters on Netflix know not to do.
It's almost one of those scenarios where you take into account something that happens, an event, a situation, a place. Example, anecdotally speaking, you go for a walk. You walk down the street approximately 300 yards. You enter a coffee shop. You say, "Hello, may I have blah, blah, blah." You grab said item, pay for the product, thank the person, you depart. You go home. That's an event that happened. There's no one to distort it. There's no one to say, "Oh, well, he was walking or she was walking in this particular way, or they were, it was a conspiracy. They were going to a tea shop instead." No, the only time that people choose to distort events or try to gaslight people into thinking that something didn't happen when something definitely did transpire is when there is a global or a financial vested interest in it. You excellently identified a couple of the key components to the radicalism that is associated with the ongoing evolution of our technological capabilities, but also of seemingly the continuing growth of social dissonance, social lack of empathy. People, unless you're really putting effort in, there's a lot of people that are really falling by the wayside and choosing to go back to earlier in the show, stay within their echo chamber because it's comfortable. Because we're now in a place of life, as you mentioned before, I hate to be this guy, but for the last fucking 18 years, at least, ever since 2007, 2008, the subprime mortgage loan crisis and all the other bullshit that went on with bailing out all the fucking car companies and everything else associated with that. Ever since then, it has been a slow trickle down in not only North America, but in most parts of Western Europe. A lot of places are seeing a lot of economic displacement. And when you take into account the amount of good that can be done by working together for a greater cause, and yes, you know what? I do not care. It would not be the first time, but someone's probably going to go, "Oh, Cleric, you're a commie. How could you, Mr. Chaos? You're a communist." Homies, my gimmick for the last 20 years has literally been we need to unify with each other instead of dividing because of opinion. We need to make it more me and you instead of red versus blue. There's really no greater element of control than the manipulation of the mind to think that there is a need to have a 3 or 4 or 5 party system or even just a 2-party system. Instead of identifying faults within these elements, we try so hard, and by we, I don't mean you and I, but people in these particular situations will try so relentlessly to prove themselves correct instead of being capable or opening themselves up to a different of opinion, a different viewpoint, a different perspective, a new way of seeing something that may not have been perceived before. These are the things that as we age and as time goes on, there is a genuine concern that those people will die. And like generations of years past, your Humphrey Bogarts, your Audrey Hepburns, your Katharine Hepburns, your Judy Garner, whatever, probably messed up her name. But
Judy Garland, yeah, she's
there you go. Thank you. those like those times are romanticized now because we didn't live in them then. But this time isn't even looked at fondly in any way, shape, or form. And the reason why people keep going back ever since the year 2000, people have been going back to the 80s for the comfort zone feelings. People have been hitting up the synth wave fucking shit for as long as people can like remember now, going on 20 fucking years, because that's what people are comfortable with. And now when you add in the elements that you pointed out earlier about how people are taking into consideration that the Charlie Kirk situation with the JD Vance rumors, with tying that in to all the things that are happening on a crazy political scale, you're right. There are three economies: the American, the Japanese, the Argentinian. But when you look at the differences between the three, the same types of people are running each economy. There is a fundamental disconnect between the people at the very, very top and the rest of us down at the very, very bottom. It is unlikely in our lifetimes that we'll see a shortening of that divide. But when
that's what people feel when they feel like the loss of the American dream. That's exactly what they're feeling, is the divide is getting further and further away from them. But we have this really strange thing in America where we don't begrudge all of the rich because we still think that there's a chance that we all may get rich, not just because of the lottery, though that doesn't help anything. Some people think they're really good at gambling. That doesn't help anything either. But because there are people who have made it really, really big on crazy ass things like playing video games, live streaming, and or doing a podcast, or doing this, that, or the other thing, and who's but that's such a like 0.1% kind of thing, which is what people always focus on, like people who their sole the most important issue to them is trans, like that's like 0.001% of the population is trans. I mean, if it's the most important issue in the world to you and you're not actually trans or in your immediate family, you're probably spending too much time thinking about it. Even then, I know plenty of people that their only issue is Israel, or other people that their only issue is their 401k, or whatever the case might be. DEI, either bad or good, whatever it is. I mean, and sort of stuck in those little things, and that's not good enough. But I don't know. I think it's a hard time to be alive and be grounded, especially when it's so easy to stay home and see whatever you want and avoid whatever you want without avoiding anything, really. I mean, you can watch 900 shows a day. And never leave the home, and never actually have to interact with real people, because if you actually interact with real people in the store and in the grocery and in restaurants, whatever, most people are still pretty regular. You go there, most people like, have a good day, nice to see you. I'm sorry that your steak was undercooked. Do you want me to send it back, or do you want to cook it for a few more minutes? I mean, most people are still normal in the interactions, and it's so easy to forget that because you never have to interact with anyone in a normal way, or the new normal way is inherently abnormal.
You never want to be friends or close to someone in whom is a dick, or in whom is a prick, or in whom is rude to customer service staff, wait staff, anyone who works at restaurants and retail. Quite frankly, every single day that we're alive is an opportunity. I mean, I'm going to get a little bit positive, a little bit into motivational here, but as long as we are breathing, as long as we're alive, as long as we have a coherent thought and our brain isn't completely just gone, that we still have some level of cognitive control over what we can think, what we can do. We can write things down. We can plan it out. We can figure it out. Life is one of those beautiful things that we all take, that all of us, every single person alive has taken life for granted in some way, shape, or form, subconsciously, consciously, or whatever. But as you just mentioned, when we kind of lose the capability to discuss, when we lose the capability to just completely understand the plights of those in front of us, For example, like when we go to a restaurant or when we go to a cafe, uh, the illusion is that everyone is, oh, they're happy to serve you. Oh, we're happy you chose our business. That is literally the business model. Every single business will have some sort of element to where you will have to be positive in some way, shape, or form if you are dealing with the front facing public. If you're dealing with IT and you only talk to people through email, it's a little bit different. But if you're dealing with people directly or over the phone, or if you're in a call center or if you're in a face to face situation, those situations can be challenging. They can be hard. They can be like, man, I can only hazard to guess how much harder it is now to work in a fast food restaurant on a busy street anywhere in a busy city in any country, because that takes fortitude, that takes courage, that takes determination, that takes motivation, that takes drive. For a lot of what we see and a lot of what we perceive, especially when it comes to just differences of opinion, I am 100% shocked a lot of the time. And this might be because I am a naive fool. I could be incorrect in that regard. I might just be overly artistic and overly emotional. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it's because of the multiple psychiatric imbalances I have. However, I am an idealist in the sense that I just want people to smile. I don't give a damn if your political opinion is opposite to me. I don't give a shit if you support, let's just pretend I'm American here. I don't care if you support Donald Trump. It's irrelevant to me. What does that impact me? Is your affinity with Donald Trump or with Joe Biden or with Kamala Harris or with Tim Walz or with fill in the name of the blank Democrat, is that really going to impact me in any way? Is you believing in Jesus? Is you believing in Muhammad? Is you believing in, Moses? Any one of the litany of gods that exist on this planet, any one of the religions, is that going to faze me? No. Are you going out and harming people? Are you going to be on a Skeeter Jean, a Gideon, or a Chris Hansen video? I don't want to deal with you. I never want to have to experience the likes of you, but everyone else in between, everyone has hope. Everyone has an opportunity to become a better person, to craft, to mold themselves, to shape themselves. A lot of social media is filled with so much false life. The Instagram specifically, that is literally just basically a glamour show for people to show their best sides. And for, the negative sides of things, the depressed sides of things, and the artistic sides of things, people to really show their poetic and or artsy-fartsy sides. But there needs to be a time that we come together and we see that it's just, we need to work together as people and just try to build a better society instead of focusing on, hey, this one sector of society thinks they're better than us. Why don't we work together instead of seeing what we can do to wage war against each other? Wouldn't that just make a bit more sense?
If only that were the way. Hey, we've been pretty heavy. Are we gonna do something light? Are we gonna lighten things up?
Yeah, no, absolutely we are.
She told me that you're gonna give me some frilly things to talk about, or maybe some sort of kooky lists.
Well, this coming Saturday, if you are looking forward to the Survivor Series War Games program, it is the legend John Cena's final PLE and/or pay-per-view appearance. This 24 hours away from now, John Cena's last time is now tour. Jeff, how do you feel about John Cena's last year in WWE?
I mean, I think I don't really watch the main roster, and I won't be watching the PLE because I don't have ESPN Plus, because that's just one of the things I refuse to pay for. Is I refuse to work hard to watch wrestling or pay more money to watch wrestling, when it's involuntary. So I'm going to MLW's Battle Riot in January, which is in Orlando. And for those who don't know, I don't live in Orlando. It's cheaper to fly round trip, rent a car, get a hotel room, and go to and get those tickets than it is to get sort of a good seat for a WWE show. So that's all I gotta say. But I think it started out okay. I mean, whenever they do these things with a finite number of appearances, they box themselves into these things, and it's and that's where the sports entertainment aspect, where people are getting star treatment and star contracts. I mean, you understand why, but that really does impact the enjoyment, because things become predictable. The heel turn could have been great. I mean, it started awkwardly with Travis Scott and him, so maybe that was a metaphor for the whole thing. parts of it afterwards were okay, but he still wore the jorts and his bright color shirts, and they wanted to sell all the merch. Like if he came in like in his 59 custom suits that he got the one day that he proclaimed on Total Divas and kept talking about how expensive, and he was like Hollywood John Cena, that would have been more interesting, and and use devious tactics. So it was sort of a wet fart, and honestly, I don't really care that this is his last PLE. I don't care about the Survivor Series. I don't care about really anything that's on the show. I'm much more interested in tonight's free on YouTube AAA WWE joint. I don't even know how long it is. I don't know if it's going to be like the last show where it's all going to be in Spanish. I don't speak Spanish, even though my wife is from South America. And it's still more enjoyable. Maybe because of that, it's more enjoyable than watching the main roster. And I will happily wait, 9 days or 8 days until NXT Deadline is on, because I find NXT to be much more enjoyable. I've been bitching about the formatting of WWE shows for a long time, going back to when I had, a wrestling podcast called Hammerlock Hangover, which hasn't been around for over 2 years now. It's only gotten worse on the main roster side. Meanwhile, NXT, LFG, Evolve, those are fun shows, for different reasons. But I don't know. So,
and you cover Evolve with Lufisto on the Wrestling Soup Network. You also cover Major League Wrestling on a very regular basis. I have had the privilege of listening to several of your interviews that you have done with several personnel and some of the talent. Your interview with Cruel, I do have to point out a couple of things. One, he absolutely sounds like someone that you would come home on a November and or a December afternoon. The snow is just starting to fall and stick to the ground. There's maybe 6 inches of it. It's quiet. It's nice. You have the holiday music in the background. You can put his voice on and bam, you're just in comfort zone. That interview you did with him, outstanding. Tremendous questions, outstanding detail. Both of you gave great answers. And providing the information that you know about the round trip flight, the hotel, the cost for Battle Riot, and everything to go to Orlando and back, to unfortunately and very despondently agree with you, WWE isn't what it used to be. We are now in a position where there are a lot more entertaining alternatives on the independent scene. Like you mentioned, MLW is a tremendous example, especially currently. Their last 4 shows that I've seen have just been, I don't want to use the term car crash or like, whoa, what the hell was that? But it's a car crash. Whoa, what the hell was that? In a good way. The combination of what they do with the luchadors, how they put on their mid card, and how they present their female division is outstanding. Just absolutely tremendous. That Shotzi Priscilla Kelly match was great. Hope the feud continues a little bit. That may or may not have fallen a little bit flat. But when we look at your experience with MLW, with NXT, with Evolve, with LFG, you seem to enjoy it a lot more too. I hear it in your voice. You can see it in your face when you're on video. You care a lot about the product. You sponsor talent. You care a great deal about the future. If there
occasionally, not as a regular thing, but yeah.
I'm just pointing out, you care a great deal, and even still, that doesn't match the amount of money it would cost to get a ringside 1, 2, or 3 row back at a SummerSlam or at a WrestleMania.
Not even in like the 200 or 300 section. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, I may be wrong about the pricing, but it just seems ridiculous.
Last time they came to Toronto, the cheapest seat was $875, man.
Yeah, so I'm probably exaggerating the cost ratio, but it's still it's sort of the point. Plus, my son lives in Orlando. We'll hang out. I'm taking him to the show. he works for Marriott, so I'm sure I'll get some sort of family discount, and maybe we'll get a suite, and we'll be roommates for 2 or 3 days. Who knows? Maybe some of the boys will come by and enjoy the resort, though probably not. They probably fly in the day of the show and fly out the next morning. But in my little mind, I see I'm still like a mark, and I see me and a bunch of wrestlers at the pool bar drinking together, ha, 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 and my son being so impressed, which he wouldn't be. He couldn't care less. He grew out of wrestling like a normal person by like age 11. But in my little cartoon brain, which is still part 15-year-old boy, that hope still abounds. And like none of those things are going to happen. But like you said, hope springs eternal. So that's my little. Meanwhile, there's a better chance of Mr. Thomas telling me to go F myself between now and then, and all sorts of stuff. But marks are going to mark. I mean, that's the point of being a fan. Part of being a fan is being a little bit irrational. And my Ravens, actually week 1, I knew they didn't have a championship in them when they gave up 15 points in the fourth quarter to a team which I thought looked sensational, the Buffalo Bills, but has turned out to be pretty mediocre. But still, they're somehow leading their division, so they'll probably limp into the playoffs and have another, early exit. But now I don't even feel compelled to follow football religiously anymore. I can follow it casually, and without main roster WWE, there's 5 hours less TV a week to watch. And it'll be 6 hours in January. And then with all the PLEs and shit that they have, like if there's a Saturday night's main event, they've had 2 that have still been on. Like I have Peacock, it comes with my system. So one of them I skipped because I wasn't interested in it, and one of them I watched, and it was the most recent one with 4 title matches, and titles changed. And so, and it was actually fairly enjoyable. Whether it was actually an enjoyable show or was enjoyable because I hadn't watched the product in so long, I don't really know. It doesn't matter. I enjoyed it. It was 2 hours, 4 title matches. Titles got switched hands. Cool. But yeah, but I'd rather check out NWA, and they put the belt on Thrillbilly Silas Mason, who I've been talking about as my breakout star of the year for like 4 years now. So, I mean, you'd think that eventually I'd be right, except that there's like 10,000 wrestlers. So no, it was just, but that's who they should have been building around. And like Brian Idol, who's a good worker of theirs and been loyal, he's like their TV champion and whatever. And it's Natalia Markova is the women's champion. I like the old women's champion too. Former,
hey,
not
don't
old.
forget about the favorite. You cannot forget about the favorite. Look, real talk, man. Going to be completely blunt. NWA is still a guilty pleasure of mine. Love it. I don't care the ups or downs the past fucking 6-7 years. It's been fun to watch. But I would be remiss if we didn't mention it's gotcha time. It's my time. It's Mondo time. The new NWA National Heavyweight Champion, Mike Mondo. Dude, this guy's social media, his consistency, his delivery. I don't know how or why WWE made the decision to put this dude and Nick Nemeth in the Spirit Squad, but holy hell, this guy from beginning to end is everything and anything that you want in a champion. He looks like a wrestler. He sounds like a wrestler. He walks, talks, acts, behaves like a wrestler. And, they put Aaron Stevens with him, which is fine. But, you take into consideration that in itself right there, along with Thrillbilly Silas, that there is your benchmark. That is what you build toward. That is
my quality friend, Aaron Stevens. Been on my shows 3 times.
They're great examples. Like, man, if I was fortunate in a parallel universe where I'm in one of the big wrestling companies right now, and where my body isn't a musculoskeletal pile of mush, Mondo's body or Hammerstone's body would be what I would be hoping to have by now. The capability to deliver in terms of a promo or anything else, I would more, I'm not going to I'm not going to butter myself up exceptionally well, but my promo skills, when taken into consideration, especially when doing public speaking as well as stand-up comedy, are along the lines of that of a Rock or a Stone Cold. But in modern day current iterations, you have so many excellent examples of people in NWA who are delivering, trying their hardest. They are on a week-to-week basis evolving, and Mike Bondo has really been one of those classic examples.
Yeah, especially when he came in, it was sort of odd that they were doing this whole thing with Paul Burchill for no particular reason, and he brought in Baba Thunder for one time, and then you never saw him again, and it was just so strange. But yeah, I think the pairing with Aaron Stevens is a nice stabilizer. It's a security blanket. You know, he can do the talking if you're not sure what to do. He always knows where to be, and he can sort of direct traffic. But Mondo's an experienced guy. Also, actually, him and Brian Idle and Natalia Markova opened up a wrestling school, I think, in Tampa, Florida, near Tampa, Florida. So that should be interesting. But yeah, one of the hidden gem matches of the year was. I think it was Tiffany Nueves against Natalia Markova in a steel cage, and they had two crazy matches, which crazy in a good way. And you don't really think of NWA for women's wrestling, but those were some fantastic matches. And I don't know, it's like I said, there, like you said, there's other options, and not all wrestling's for everybody, but there's plenty of things that, everyone thinks I'm a giant WWE fan. And truth is, I think I'm the only I'm one of 5 people who said the debut on Netflix was a terrible show and the absolute worst first impression to make if you're trying to get new wrestling. I was like, it's fantastic. Everyone's the stars. It's like, there was no freaking wrestling on the show. It's like, why would anyone tune into that show if they thought that you're going to hear the drunk Rock prattle on for 25 minutes and just show a bunch of, maybe A-level celebrities, but very niche celebrities. Like, if you don't care about Jelly Roll, like I don't care about Jelly Roll, I mean, why do you care that he's there? If you don't care about, whatever, Lil Yachty or whatever, rapper was there, why would you care? Why would you be impressed by that? The aforementioned Travis Scott. I mean, it's like that. You watch an award show for that, and by the way, it debuted right around award show season starting, Golden Globes and Oscars and shit like that. I mean, you to see celebrity shots, you watch those, not wrestling shows. So I don't know. I just thought it was crap, which is not really important. But that really turned me off. I think I watched Raw 4 times since that total, and live maybe twice.
And I think it's more the allure, or like not even the allure, but just kind of like, you know how addictions function in a way to where people can't go a day without a certain thing. Like there's some people who can't go without a drink. There's some people who can't go without a joint. There's some people who can't go without a cigarette, so on and so on and so on.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to wrestling, especially, and how emotionally invested some people get so hardline focused on whether it's WWE or now within the past 5-6 years, AEW, that, a lot of the independence that we are missing out on, or not we, you and I, but we collectively as wrestling fans, we look at as being, okay, well, you have to pick between one of these two. No, you absolutely do not. There are so many different variations and so many entertaining alternatives out there. Wrestling Open out of the UK Wrestling Open, I think, is out of, it's out of the States, I think. It's out of the States. Fancy Ryan Clancy, one of the best talents on the independent circuit right now. There are so many different examples of independent wrestling that you can get to grow and love. Check out a couple programs. A lot of them are available for free on YouTube, and you might find yourself a new favorite. Speaking of which,
IWTV.
IWTV is worth the money if you are able to afford it. Outstanding content, a lot of different companies, a lot of different people that you'll see from different companies in different companies. And the independent scene is really fun to watch, especially when you're looking for something to where you are looking for something that you are not expecting. Maybe a new character, maybe a new type of presentation, maybe a different type of production. It really all revolves around what the person wants to see. Yeah. But getting into what we were talking about at the very, very top of the program before we started recording, I did promise you that there would be a top 5 list at the conclusion of the program. And today's top 5, given the nature and circumstances and dynamics of our long knowledge of each other, sir, going on 13 years now, we are going to list our top 5 favorite MLW wrestlers of all time, and I'll start with the rapid fire 5 to 1. 5, Mystico. 4, Richard Holiday. 3, Alexander Hammerstone. 2, Killer Cross. And 1, we would have to look no further than the current heavyweight champion, Cruel.
Wow, that's a good list. This is a hard question too, because I theoretically could get in trouble. So I'm going to go with 5, Richard Holiday. I'm going to go with 4 as Alexander Hammerstone, though he should be higher. I just don't know. I'm just not putting him higher. 3, Jacob Fatu. No. 2 is going to be Jacob Fatu. I'll go with 3 with Cross. Pretty big Cross fan. And number 1, of course, has to be my best friend, Mr. Thomas. But for the record, I'm not his best friend. He's just my best friend.
We all have those dynamics in friendships and relationships. The odd couple. I mean, look at it. It could be a heck of a lot worse. You could be getting cease and desist letters every time you mention his name. But
I'm sure that's coming. But Boumaier is for the people.
The Boumaier. Oh, Alex Kane is an absolutely outstanding talent. I hope we see more of him as well. And with that being said, there, Mr. Evil Dose, I would like you to conclude our.
Oh, can I give an honorable mention?
Yes, you absolutely may.
Joseph Samael. Joseph Samael, just the name Samael, everything, just fantastic. The leader of Contra, even when he's not there, he's still the leader of Contra. So yeah, but that's my honorable mention.
Well, I mean, that is a fair addition. I was actually kind of thinking he would be your number 4 or number 3, but you did surprise me in that respect.
He said wrestler. He's not really a wrestler. I mean, he is, but anyway.
It's kind of like how people would view the Don Gatto character, like, is he, isn't he? Like, But Jeff,
Walker got with Cesar Duran, Selena De Laurenta, as well, but but I didn't.
It's true. Very, very great program MLW is. We look forward to their future shows. I look forward to hearing what you have to say about Battle Riot when it comes out, and especially with all of your, outstanding social media presence. It is going to be a very unique opportunity to see you witness it firsthand. And Jeff, please feel free to plug anything and everything that you are a part of, all of your social medias and everything that you are currently doing.
All right, well, I think we did a pretty good job about talking about them during the course of this show. But so on X, which is probably the best way to follow me, and if you're interested in wrestling nonsense, it's at @dose_evil. My podcast family is called The Garden of Thought. If you subscribe to that, you'll generally get 2 to 3 shows per week. The variety is a little bit like Joe Rogan, without the celebrity, without the success, without the other embrace of bro culture. Maybe a little bit more academic and a little bit less fantastical, but we definitely have the fantastical as well. And then there's also the odd mixture of shows which used to be Garden Views, which are more legal, business, science and tech, and realpolitik. But that's part of me, and I do strive to make those shows those that I at least think would have a broad-based interest. A lot of space law and things that are sort of their cognates here on Earth, with law, things like student loans, that I think a lot of people are interested in, stuff like that. Also, the show that started as Book of Black with my co-host PJ Black, Justin Gabriel, which is now Gospel of Thomas. God knows what it'll be in the future, but where my co-host is a professional wrestler, and we talk to someone in wrestling about wrestling and other things. That's the show the Cleric was alluding to with regards to Cruel, and Alex Kane was on the show as well. And every now and then we break news without intentionally trying to, or like I found out BRG was released from MLW from that interview. Nobody reported it. We were Alex Kane's first interview as a free agent, and he was heavily thought of and unsigned. I'm like, is your phone ringing off the hook? You getting all these texts? He's like, no. Nothing's really happening. I'm like, well, how do you know what to do? He's like, yeah, I don't. I just, I'm just sort of playing it by ear. Okay. I mean, so, things like that are food for thought for everyone. I do a couple things on the Wrestling Soup Network. So from its extended family, the Drew Yari Experience, I do NXT PLE reviews with Drew. So that's like, I don't know, like 6 or 7 times a year. I do the LFG review show with Lufisto. So, we didn't do season 1, but we did season 2, and then we did a retrospective with Dr. Gina Poussin. I forgot how to pronounce it. But it was sort of like the gravy fries in French. But she's a sports psychologist, and she had some really interesting insights, and that was a fun show. And I do on wrestling. And also, Lou and I do the WWE AAA review shows. We've done 2 of them. I don't know if we're doing it for tonight or not. It's still very much an open question. And on the ancillary feed, which is the Wrestling Soup and Friendos, I do a show called Dose of Chocolate, where me and White Chocolate review Evolve. And we are like one of 4 shows is dedicated to Evolve. And then, as you mentioned, with Marie Shadows on her podcast, the Squared Circle podcast, we review MLW, their PLE events, which are YouTube free events. For now, I don't know what the future will hold. And in 2026, Fusion's going to be a weekly show. So I imagine we'll start doing a weekly show. God help me, where am I going to find this time? Anyway, yeah, that's all of the things I do. And I cringe every time that Drew Yari and John Draper say I do a lot of shows. But now that I hear it out loud, I do a lot of shows. Maybe I'm diluting my own brand.
No, not necessarily. I like to view it as you are being as supportive and you are being as versatile as you possibly can be.
Yeah.
In today's world, in today's shape of society, that's all we can really ask for. That's all we hope for. And additionally, it has been an absolute lovely opportunity to speak with you on this level today, Jeff. We talk every day almost, but to have this kind of discourse and to also have the opportunity for our listeners to see exactly how beautiful MLW is and just how wonderful our world can be if we just give it one more try. It has been an absolute privilege to have you on board today. And I'd like to remind our audience that if you are going through any sort of psychiatric duress, please contact 1-800-273-8255 or dial 988 from your mobile phone in the United States or Canada. If you are experiencing domestic violence, call 1-800-799-7233. If you are alone and you have a laptop or a computer, please visit thehotline.org, where you can discuss your situation confidentially with a representative. And if your abuser enters the room, you can press the escape key twice so it directs back to a Google search page so your abuser does not know you are looking for help. Ultimately, we are living in a very hard time and the holidays are coming up. So, ladies and gentlemen, dear listeners of the Cheating Death podcast, we want you to be kind to yourselves. Take a moment to breathe, remember, and relax. You are valued, you are loved, you are taken care of. And remember, we're pulling for you. We're all in this together.
As per the episode's description, we promised you 2 top 5s in this particular program. So without further ado, our top 5 favorite vegetables coming in at number 5. We, of course, have the butternut squash coming in at number 4. We have the cucumber coming in at number 3. We have the parsnip coming in at number 2. We, of course, have the tomato. And coming in at number 1, the greatest Thai of all time, the cauliflower and broccoli. What is your top 5 favorite vegetables? Email us at thecheatingdeathpodcast@gmail.com. Today's joke has been brought to you by the Cleric of Chaos. What did the romaine say to the tomato, to the cucumber, and to the onion? Let us show you how to make a good salad. Thank you to Evil Dose, the 1,000-year-old cephalopod, for coming on the program today. Having him discuss his experience and his wisdom will give our listeners an excellent opportunity to see things through a different lens. And if you have any questions or any feedback for our lovely guest today, feel free to email us at thecheatingdeathpodcast@gmail.com. Take care of yourselves and each other. The Cheating Death Podcast has been brought to you by Nach dem Leben, CRDVC, Chaos Realm Records, CR Deutschland, Google, Apple, Spotify, and Spreaker Podcasts. If you'd like to support the program, you may do so at buymeacoffee.com/Cleric of Chaos, or book a meeting for your upcoming artistic or next business endeavor at linktr.ee/Cleric of Chaos, where you can also acquire $10 cameos, merch, media, and much, much more. If you have any comments about the program, email us at thecheatingdeathpodcast@gmail.com or reach out to us at twitter.com/weallcheatdeath. Please follow the host at twitter.com/Cleric of Chaos and follow all of our lovely friends and personnel at the links in the episode's description. If you or anyone you know is experiencing psychiatric duress, please call 1-800-273-8255 or dial 988 from your mobile phone. If you're experiencing domestic violence, please call 1-800-799-7233. And if you're looking at adopting a playful puppy or a cute kitten, please visit your local animal adoption rescue center. We'd like to thank Evil Dose for taking the opportunity and the time and his experience and education to sit down with us today. And remember, the holidays are around the corner, so be kind to yourself, take care, and remember to try your very, very best to see the beauty in the mirror. Remember, we're pulling for you. We're all in this together.